Hey there, kings and queens. Welcome back to another episode of Faith House Podcast. I'm your host, Diamond. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you a question today. I want to ask you if you'll just walk with me through your imagination for a second. I want you to visualize yourself decades from now, working in your career. You have a steady job, steady income. Everything feels beautiful, easy peasy cover girl, right? And you feel satisfied, you feel content, and you've been devoting your entire energy, your youth, your time, your focus to this career. And then one day, a random person comes up to you and taps you on your shoulder in the middle of your work, and they tell you it's all been a lie. Imagine them telling you as you are right there about to prepare yourself for retirement and you are ready to say goodbye to the career you devoted your whole life to, and they tell you you got it wrong. This entire time you got it wrong. What if in that moment you suddenly realize and it dawns on you that the last few decades of your life you've been doing what you're good at but not what you're called to do? What if you realize in that moment that you've been completely out of alignment with what you were purposed to do? Would you in that moment decide to change? Granted, you have a couple decades invested at this point. You're older in age. Your vitality may not be what it used to when you first started the current career you're in, and you may feel like, what's the point? Granted, you probably have a lot of other factors to consider. But if someone told you that you were going to live another 2 decades, would you make the decision to change, or would you still say that that's not enough time? Would you say, yeah, I'm going to throw away 20 more years of my life because I feel like it's too late? Would you allow the anxiety, the stress, the shock of realizing that you've wasted so much time decide how you're going to use the rest of your time? So many times I've heard people say, oh, I'm too old to change careers. Or I'm sitting across from someone in therapy and they are telling me how they've been so passionate about this one particular thing in their life, but they never actually pursued it because they felt as though they had to prioritize their finances and the current career that they're in instead of pursuing what they feel like they were called and purposed to do. It's funny to me when we say that we're too old or it's too late for something, because we don't know how much time we have left. We don't know when we're going to die. We don't know what the future holds. And yet, we make the assumption that we're too old to do something. We make the assumption that we don't have enough time, enough youth. We make the assumption that we have to just accept our losses here where we are and move on. Do you not know that God will call you from a successful career and bring you directly into your purpose at any age? I was looking at some of the celebrities and famous people that came and had their claim to fame or had the biggest burst in their identity and their purpose and their calling and their giftings later in life, as we say. I think about Vera Wang, Samuel L. Jackson, and how they didn't allow time or their age define whether or not they were going to pursue something they felt called to do and purposed to do. And yet so many of us make that decision every day that we decide to stay exactly where we are, even though we know it's not where we're supposed to be. Even though we're not fulfilled there. We settle. We convince ourselves that we're comfortable there. We convince ourselves that it's okay, it's good enough. We convince ourselves that our lives are not worth pursuing more. I also wonder how many of us have confused our talent for our purpose. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's your purpose. Why am I harping on purpose right now? Because there are so many people who are throwing away their lives out of assumptions that are so unrealistic. There are so many people who complain about a problem that they're seeing in the world, and yet they aren't doing anything to resolve it, fix it, or make it better. And they think that they don't have enough this, they don't have enough that, they don't know enough this, they don't have enough that to do anything about it. But do you not know that your small step creates a echo and a vibration in the earth that allows other people to be ignited within your proximity, that they can then ignite and touch other people? That's exactly how light works. That's how, when we think about ourselves as candles bearing this light in this dark world, when we touch someone else, they light up. When that person touches someone else, they light up. And so on and so forth. That's how we actually affect the change that we want. But instead, we become complacent. Instead, we decide that we don't want to take the risk. Instead, we focus on the question of what if I fail instead of what if I succeed? What if people laugh at me, as opposed to what if they will applaud me? Can you live with yourself knowing that you gave up? Imagine you are decades into this career and someone tells you, this is actually what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you were supposed to be doing all along. But when you were X age, you were told that you weren't good enough for it. Or you were told that that idea was stupid, and so you gave up on it. You now have the knowledge and the information. What are you going to do with it? I think I've become so tired and bothered by seeing generations and generations of people throw away their calling, their purpose, their gifts, their identity because of fear. Sometimes, I haven't studied this in the Bible yet, but bringing in the spiritual component, sometimes I wonder if fear is like the greatest thing that distracts us from our identity in Christ. I haven't researched that before, but I'd be curious to know, like biblically, has it been shown that fear is often the number one thing, or is it written anywhere in the Bible that fear is the number one thing that keeps people from fulfilling their calling and their purpose and their identity in Christ? I wonder if there's anything that speaks to this as a truth, because it's everywhere. And perhaps I just see it more because of my current career and positioning, that I'm in a position where I get to interface with a lot of people when they are going through a lot of things and they're having these moments of midlife crisis. And maybe that just skews my perspective. But it's very frustrating when you can see so much purpose and calling in someone's life and they decide that they want to stay where they are. It's funny when we think about this idea that people have a midlife crisis, and when you think about how the media portrays a midlife crisis, they typically depict it as something super silly or someone pursuing something that is wildly insane or foolish. And I think about a movie in particular with Tyler Perry where he decided to, as many would have probably called it, a midlife crisis. He made the decision to choose life, to choose purpose, to choose taking a risk. And for him in the movie, of course it's just a movie, so obviously it ended well. But some of us just leave it as a movie. What if your midlife crisis wasn't actually a midlife crisis? What if your midlife crisis was actually a wake-up call? What if your midlife crisis, the thing that you're calling a phase, what if that is your spirit crying out for you to step into what you were purposed to do in this earth? That idea that you're calling silly, what if that idea was the answer to millions and millions of problems within the earth? Or just in your community? I wish I could, right in this moment, retract the just before community, because that's still important. That's equally important. Because sometimes we look at wanting to reach the masses, and that's not a bad thing to pursue. But I think it's beneficial and important when we change the mindset of, oh, we're reaching masses, as in the number of people. But remember that each person is a valuable person individually. What if you only touch one person with that idea? Does that mean the idea wasn't good? No, you changed a life. You potentially saved a life. But you're too afraid to take the chance. You're too afraid that you'll fail. You're too afraid that, what if it doesn't work out? What if it does? What if you change the entire trajectory of a generation in your family and in your life, and you change your parents' life and your children's children's life with just taking a risk, with just stepping out on faith and saying, you know what, why not? What if you decided, you know what, it's not too late? What if you decided that you're going to start today, regardless of your age, regardless of how old you are, regardless of how many kids you have? You can take one step towards who God called you to be and what your purpose to be and do in this earth. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is seeing ourselves as a nobody. There used to be this song that says, I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save your life. I'm no singer, but I'm sure you know the song I'm talking about. Of course, that song is talking about introducing people to Jesus. And I used to love that song until one day my pastor said something that struck me. He said how much he hated that song. And I was like, what? You tripping. Bruh, you tripping. That song is so beautiful. But when he broke it down, it made so much sense. Saying, I'm just a nobody. And it dawned on me, how does God feel when we say we're just a nobody? How would you feel if you created something amazing and fantastic, and you're so excited about it, and you're so excited about all the potential it has, and you want it to succeed, you want it to prosper, you want it to be a blessing into many people, and you are just so proud of it, and then it tells you, I'm nothing? You would feel devastated. You would feel so heartbroken because you put everything into it. You gave life for it. And it's saying that it's nothing. And that's how God is looking at us. When we say that we're nothing. When we decide that we're going to settle in mediocrity and stagnation. When we decide that we aren't worth it. we aren't worth the time, we aren't worth the energy, we are not worth the resources. Basically, we're telling God, yeah, no, I know you put all that into me, but I'm not worth it. You made a mistake. How dare us tell God he made a mistake creating us? How dare us make the assumption that we don't have value and worth? Why are you still breathing if you don't? Why are you still waking up every single day if you don't have value, worth, and a purpose? You do. And it's the biggest lie that people think, is that they are just here to fill space. That would be a very silly creator, to design and create a bunch of beings just take up space. That's such a waste of time. That would be such a waste of time. Just like the time you're wasting sitting on your potential and not stepping into it boldly and confidently like you can. Today's episode is not a coming to Jesus moment. It's me sounding a blaring, annoying alarm that screeches and pierces your eardrums through to your cranium on your stagnation and your mediocrity. It's me sounding an alarm on you making the choice and decision to settle. It's me reminding you of who you have the potential to become if you decide to do that. Consider this a warning message from your future self. I'm just the vessel bringing the message. Consider this your future self screaming at you right now, wherever you are. Please don't waste any more time. Get focused. Find your purpose. Don't give up. Don't settle. Pursue that idea. Are you going to ignore you? Are you going to ignore the warnings that future you is sending you right now where you are? Make a different decision. Make a different choice. Take a chance. The worst thing they can say is no. The worst thing they can do is not support. Okay, try again. Keep trying. Because when someone else says no, someone else is saying yes. If it's in your heart and if it's in your mind, if you have been thinking about this, whether it's when you were a kid, it was just something that you were thinking about when you were a kid, or if it's something that's always come up to your mind at some point in time, pursue it. And don't see it as you just pursuing a thing. See it as you pursuing you. You finding your purpose is you finding you. It's not you finding a job, a career, a solution to your finances. That comes along once you're in your purpose. God will provide all that. When you're in your purpose, the blessings flow. Because when you're in your purpose, you're focused on fulfilling the will of God in your life. How do you correct this? How do you get focused on your purpose and you find it and you pursue it? Number one, you have got to start taking some risk. I feel like Nike said it best. Just do it. It's so simple, but it's so real. Just do it. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to prepare, and we never actually make the step. We never actually make the next decision that will lead us into taking action on all the preparation that we've been spending our time and attention on, or all the plans that we've been building. A plan is nothing but a bunch of notes if you're not taking action on it, if you're not moving in alignment with what the plan says. What are your passions? Maybe you've had a moment in your life that was life-changing. Maybe you had a moment in your life that was so traumatic that made you lose who you were in it. And so you became someone else. Go back to who you were. Do the work on yourself to get healed and whole so that you can find who you were always created to be. So that your past is no longer dictating your future. It has no right to do that. But you have every right to live in your full potential. You have every right to live in your full potency. If only you realize how potent you are. People are walking around with a mean uppercut in some area of their life, and they just wasting it. They letting that muscle just waste away. You could be knocking out some businesses. You could be knocking out some inventions. You could be knocking out some breakthroughs in some people's lives, and you are just sitting around with all that muscle and ain't doing nothing with it. Okay. Get up. Get up. Get up. Stop giving up. Get up. And this isn't just me trying to encourage someone else. I think these past couple of hours, these past several hours, since last night, I've been in this reflection of the time when I was struggling so intensely with suicidality and depression and anxiety and insecurity. Girl, oh, I wish I could go back and hug her. Girl, I wish I could go back and hug her. I wish I could tell her how great she is gonna become. And I think that's what I'm feeling now for you. You are so potent. You're strong and you're powerful. You have so much potential. You don't even know who you are. I'm seeing all these different flashes of faces, some I know, some I've never seen before, come into mind, and I just feel angry, and I don't know if that's the word I'm supposed to feel, but I feel anger. I think I feel anger at, I don't know. I didn't mean for this episode to be a bunch of therapeutic silence, as we would call in therapy. Maybe this is my own therapy right now. Maybe it's how I'm coping with seeing so many people waste their lives and wanting more for them, more than they want for themselves. It reminds me of the episode I did a few months back with Coach Kat. And as I'm thinking about her story, she didn't let age or time or where she was in life stop her from pursuing her passion and her dream. And she's still pursuing it. To have a gym, to revolutionize lives and to change lives and inspire health and wellness holistically. You gotta go listen to her episode if you haven't yet. I can't remember the exact episode number it is. Just listen to them all. But to come back to focus, my hope is that what you take away from this this episode is to value the time that you have, value the energy that you have. Start closing your eyes. Sometimes we keep our eyes open and our physical reality completely clouds our actual potential and purpose and identity. If you are struggling and you're in a situation of poverty, or if you're in a toxic environment or unsupportive environment, if you keep looking around long enough, you're going to see a bunch of reasons why you should give up. Or on the other hand, you could use it as motivation of all the reasons why you should not give up. Perspective, right? Glass half empty, glass half full. Nevertheless, it can be so valuable to spend more time with your eyes closed. You don't even have to meditate, but just start paying attention to what comes up when you're just sitting in silence. You just close your eyes. You just allow your mind to be. You're not trying to focus on anything in particular. You're just allowing yourself to be. Some people can't sit in silence because their mind gets loud. But that is exactly why you should spend more time sitting in silence, because as it's getting loud, you can parse apart the voices that you're hearing. Whether it's the voice of God, the voice of your insecurities, the voice of the enemy creating doubt and shame or guilt, that needs to be parsed apart so you can clean up the quality of your mind. You have to be in your mind 24/7. You don't get a break from it. So you might as well make sure it's a pleasant place to be. A transparent moment. I had a season in my life where I was really struggling with, I was afraid to close my eyes because these horrific and disgusting images would come to my mind. And it wasn't from stuff that I was watching. Some of it was from just movies and things that I was watching, but some of it was not from movies or anything. These were things that I'd never seen before. It just horrible images, creatures, thoughts, just horrible things. And so I started becoming afraid of silence and afraid of closing my eyes. And so one day I decided to stop running and just face it and confront it. And the way I went about confronting it was in layers. One, searching out and examining the sources, making sure what I'm taking in through my ear gates, as they say, and my eye gates, as they say, was healthy. And I'm not even going to say it had to be something super holy or all gospel, because I don't always listen to all gospel. I love me some Dax. I love me some LL Cool J. I love me some Mariah Carey, some R&B, dance hall, like Dexter. I know I'm gonna get judged for that one. But just examine the quality of what you're taking in and consider yourself, because everyone's sensitive to different things. Some people, they can't listen to certain things, even if it's not exactly bad or exactly good. They just can't listen to it. They can't do it because then it impacts them so strongly. And I think God created us in these different ways, and we have different sensitivities because it aligns with our purpose, and not just our purpose functionally in the earth, but also spiritually, because we do have those spiritual gifts. And there are certain things that must remain pure and must remain more intentionally protected in order to protect its potency. I like that word right now. And its power within the spiritual realm, and spiritually with you as your own being. But nevertheless, I had to examine what I was taking in And then number 2, I started filtering in more positive thoughts. I started to force myself to create new images. And this may sound weird. So what? If you are struggling with this, when these type of images are coming to your mind, change the narrative. Change how it plays out. Create new colors. Create a new design. Whatever it is that's coming to your mind, restructure it. You are the creator in your mind. You are the one in control. Doubt, fear, shame, anxiety, depression, mental health has been lying to you and telling you that you are not in control. That is a lie. As a mental health professional, I can tell you with 100% certainty that is a lie. You are in control. You have a whole lot more control than you think. Take back the remote. Take back the pencil, the pen, the paintbrush, and you paint a new image. You paint something that is reflective of what you want to start visualizing. And I can say it with such confidence because I've done it. And I had to do it. I had to practice it. That's the third part. It's not just doing it one time and that's it. You have to practice it. Just like any muscle, if you're in the gym, you got to work it out a few times. You can't go to the gym one day and expect a six-pack the next day. And you've been eating garbage and being a slum for decades. No, it's not going to work like that. You have to work the new muscle. You have to train your mind. You have to discipline yourself and make a decision that you're going to do it. Not when you feel like it, not when you want to, even if you don't feel like it and you don't want to do it. Even if it feels like everything's going great, so why would I need to do it? Do it anyway. That's a perfect time to practice it because your mind is most clear and at its strongest when you are in that elevated, more positive and healthier and more functional state. And don't be afraid to try something new. Just because it sounds like it's weird or something that people are making fun of you of or is silly, or no one in your family has ever done any type of therapy, or no one in your family believes in imagination or creativity, that's why you have been seeing the same patterns in your life, because no one has tried something new. No one has tried something new. That is why you're seeing the same patterns in your life. And when you look at your lineage and generations and generations of the women in your family or the men in your family, whatever it might be, you're seeing that pattern because no one has tried something new. Try something new. What is it going to hurt? I don't know who got me irky today, but someone has me irky today. It's never too late. Like, my takeaway that I would want you to remember is that it's never too late. Don't believe that lie. I don't care if you're 50, 60. I don't care how old you are. It's never too late to start. And it's never too young to start either. I watched a video a friend of mine sent me of this 11-year-old that blessed my whole heart. She was talking about the importance of this generation coming up, their parents, the need for them to be more attuned to their children and not just sitting them in front of tablets, and how that relates to emotional regulation and teaching children empathy and so on and so forth. And it struck me in particular because there were other things that she said. I even wrote notes about it. It was a TED Talk. But as she was speaking, I was feeling some encouragement and some reassurance in the area of my life related to having children. Some things that I had been worried about, that I realized God was using this video. This little girl, 11, or I feel like she's probably younger than that, maybe 10 years old. She was being used at such a young age, fully in her purpose, and she touched me and moved me and taught me some things. So you're never too young, you're never too old. Just start. Please, please, please start. And if nothing else, remember to love yourself. Love on somebody, and first and foremost, love God, because He first loved you. That's all I got for you guys today. And remember, faith helps.